Here we are, folks. 5 books I DNF'd, but really, really want to finish reading. And one that I would drop kick into the ocean. So I DNF books a lot. And some of them I never want to read again, and I don't. And I will probably make a video about those at some point. But a lot of the times when I DNF a book, it's more about circumstances and less about the book itself. So for instance, I'll start with my very first book to prove this point. I have been reading Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary for over a year. I think it's about 1.5 years now. And I love this book. The parts that I have read, I have thoroughly enjoyed. But for whatever reason, I keep putting it down. The first time I put it down, it was because I had the soft copy paperback. I don't know. Don't ask. And as you can see, I tabbed this book. Like I like this book, but I just could not. At one point, the print was just so small. I feel very young, but my eyes don't. Okay. So, it just got to be too much. Like I could not read the print. So I was like, let me get it in. I wanted the large print version. I wanted the large print version, but they didn't have that. But I got it in the hardback because the words are much bigger. So that's the first reason why I DNF'd it. I put it down for months. I mean, when I say months, I mean months, y'all. Because shortly after getting the hardback version, I moved. And moving literally consumed my life. Also, my grandson came for a couple months. A lot was going on during the time when I've been trying to read this book. I've read other books. I've traveled. I've done lots of things. But for some reason, I could not pick this book back up. Well, I'm wanting to say in December, I tried again to read this book. And at this point, I am over halfway through the book. I am over halfway. Yeah, I'm at least on I feel like I already read chapter 17 and I need to just stop playing and finish the book. But I put it down again. The plan was to finish it before the new year so that I was starting off with a clean slate, theoretically. And that did not happen. So I think I have this much of the book left. I'm going to try to finish it this summer. That is the plan. But here's my point. It's just like when it comes to why I can't read, which I filmed a video about that, why I struggle with reading. Even though back in the day when I was younger, I mean, I could devour 2-3 books a day. Okay, maybe 2. I mean, I was young. I was a kid, so they were kid books. But you know what I mean? Like I could read books really fast. And now, you know, with life and family and distractions, and I have other things that I do. I don't just sit and read all the time, although wouldn't that be just amazing if you could do that? I remember when I used to do that. There was no social media to scroll. Those were the days. But I did talk a lot on the phone with my friends because that's what you did back then. Anyway. Yeah, there's just a myriad of reasons why I have not finished this book. And none of them have to do with the book itself. It's a great book. Everybody keeps telling me how wonderful it is. Every time I see somebody review it, they love it. I know that the payoff in the end is going to be just juicy. And yet, for whatever reason, I just keep getting stuck. So this is the first example of a book that I want to finish. And for whatever reason, it is still not finished. So, okay, I was sitting on my knees because, you know, sometimes I think that I have superhuman powers and I don't. Though at some point, though, during this video, I probably do need to squat, though, because I haven't done that today and I try to do it every day. So if I do, don't think it's weird. It's just me trying to get my exercise in. Second book that I have DNF'd and want to finish reading is Big Swiss by Jen Began. This book is laugh out loud funny. It is hilarious. I don't know why I stopped reading it. I picked it up started reading it in February. February or March. And I'm loving it. It's not that hard a book to read. I don't know. I just got to a point where I just stopped. But for the life of me, I can't tell y'all why. I have no idea. It's just one day I put it down and picked up something else. And it was so funny because on TikTok, I took a poll, like a very loose poll. I think one person answered. And I was like, should I read this book or another book? I can't even remember what the other book was. And people were like, you should read the person. And one person was like, you should read this book. And I was like, okay. Because it's laugh out loud funny. I was literally kikiing in public with this one. I mean, I was having a good old time by myself reading this book. It is that good. It's also one of those books, though, that does a lot for shock value. But I'm okay with that. I'm going to finish reading this book. I am. I took the cover off, though, because the cover is depicting a woman reaching the zenith, the height, the peak, the big O. Y'all know what I'm saying. And it's weird because when I bought the book, I was like, this is an interesting cover. And then I realized what it was about. And I was like, oh. So I took the cover off because I read this in public. You know, I was at the coffee shop reading this. But then looking at the cover, and I'll post it up here because, y'all, I don't know what I do with the cover. But looking at the cover, I was like, but looks like she's in pain. Is that what it looks like? If that's what it looks like, yeah, I never need to see that. Let's talk about the book that I would drop kick into the ocean if I could. This book right here. This book has been giving me the blues since I started reading it. And it's still continuing to give me the blues. Because when I gathered up all the books to bring them in here to do this video, this one was a part of that. This one was a part of that group of books. And somehow this one managed to fall behind a table. First of all, it's my fault. Scary fairy tales, really. But I thought it might be interesting. It was a small book. I got it last year. I was trying to get books read before the end of the year because I was trying to get close to my reading goal. So I picked this one up because it looked interesting. It's by Ludmila Petrushevskaya. This book, the book that I want to drop kick into the ocean. There once lived a woman who tried to kill her neighbor's baby. Scary fairy tale. Let's just say either I'm really too dumb for this book, which is a possibility. I may not be smart enough for this book. Knees again. But I mean, it's a New York Times bestseller. It was one of New York Magazine's 10 best books of the year. It was a National Public Radio's 5 best works of foreign fiction. So I'm thinking like, no, all of this sounds great. I even like the way they put the little spooky font on there for, you know, the header of each new story. It just jumped out at me, almost literally jumped out at me. And I wish that I would have just thrown it back. And here's why. Sometimes things get lost in translation. I think that's what happened with this book. I am okay with creepy. I'm okay with weird stories. These stories just were beyond all of that. It was too much, y'all. It was too much. It's too much. So I am DNFed this. I like the second, I think that, did I get to the third story? There's 5. I think I read 2 of the stories. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot. And like I said, I don't know if something was lost in translation. Maybe her humor is just very different from my humor, or what she finds interesting is very different. I found it to be beyond creepy. I found it to be disturbing. I was like, no ma'am. I do not want these thoughts swirling around in my head. Also, the stories that I read, they were not giving what I think they would be giving if they were in the original language. They were translated from Russian. And I think possibly something gets completely lost from the Russian to the English. That maybe some other people should have been consulted, and maybe they would have found a way to make it like the sense of irony you're supposed to get from the stories, because I think that's what's supposed to happen. That's not happening. It's almost like bad dad jokes. And I know you're probably thinking all dad jokes are bad. Not all dad jokes are bad. Some of them are funny, and some of them it's like they may not be funny, but you get it and you're like, okay, boom, boom, ching. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. These were the bad dad jokes. These were the ones where it's like, no, don't ever tell that joke again in public. That's what I was getting from this. And they weren't jokes. And that's part of the problem. Like, it just was not giving what I think they thought it was going to give. What is funny is, as I was reading the stories, I anticipate what outcomes are going to be. A lot of the times you can predict a story. You can just predict it because you've been living long enough and you've witnessed a lot of things, right? I predicted the story. So I think, and that could be part of the reason why it bothered me, but like, what logically should have gone next or should have happened didn't. It was something far weirder and far worse. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I know one thing. This is a DNF that will remain a DNF. I am not even remotely interested. Okay, maybe I am. The Cabbage Patch Mother. There once lived a woman who had a tiny little daughter named Droplet. The girl was just a tiny droplet of a baby and she never grew. Okay, that actually does sound a little bit interesting. All right, I might read the last story. Maybe I will read the last story. Stay tuned. Okay, so I finished The Cabbage Patch Mom. It was not the last story in the book. There are actually 2 more. And why is somebody trying to gaslight me? Why is somebody trying to gaslight me? I feel like I'm being gaslit. What is this? What is this book? That story. So I have 3 books left that I DNF'd and still want to read. So let's go through those pretty quickly because, I didn't want to end on a negative note. But you guys, I'm not going to lie. That book had me like wanting to punch the air. The next book, Haruki Murakami's Absolutely on Music. This book has, let's see, like I can actually see the words. This book has an intro that had me like gripped, okay? It had an introduction that I think is 20 pages long, a 20-page introduction. So let's just say this much of this much of the book, right? And it had me gripped. This 20-page introduction. I was learning about Seiji Ozawa, probably not saying his name right. This conductor, we were kind of getting his backstory and, how he met Haruki Murakami. And I was here for it, 20 pages in. Then it turns into a book that is interview style. And it's not like Daisy Jones and the Six interview style. It's just 2 men talking like a bros podcast. I just really, it lost me. It totally lost me. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Like I'm interested. I want to know, but the back and forth, it was just too much back and forth. So I put it down because I was like, I can't do this. And, that is the reason. It wasn't that, again, that the subject matter was bad. I'm actually interested in what they have to say. I loved Haruki Murakami's, what I talk about when I talk about running. I love his nonfiction stuff. I have not gotten through any of the fiction. I've tried 3 different books of his fiction, and for whatever reason, I stopped reading. Those are books that I DNF too, and probably could go on this list, but I didn't include them because I didn't think about it. In any case, I want to finish reading this. And I had a light bulb moment when I tried to film this earlier. I could just Audible it. I could just read it on Audible, like listen to it because it's an interview. I could literally listen to them talking while I'm doing literally anything else. Duh. And that's what I should have done instead of putting it down. But it didn't occur to me until I was filming this video. Because I was thinking about it and I was like, well, was it that bad? You really couldn't get through it? I realized that I don't really like to read interviews. I did read Daisy Jones and the Six though, but I also listened to it as well. Like I did both. And definitely something like that is better watched on television or listened to. And so I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. This is a good candidate for an audiobook, and I'm going to make that so. So my last 2 books, and I'll just talk about these together but separate, if that makes sense. I Am by Maggie O'Farrell and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Okay, so The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, simply put, I had this book back when it came out, I think in 2017, like somewhere thereafter. I got this book in a FabFitFun box. And I was like not really back into reading back then. Like I was reading, but I was reading a lot of nonfiction, a lot of self-help, a lot of like, girl, enhance your life, wash your face, stop eating so much sugar, that type of stuff, stuff to improve my life, stuff to make me at 50 plus feel like I'm only 30. That was the type of stuff that I was reading. And, it was all good. I was not reading fiction that much. And I got this book in my FabFitFun box and I was like, oh, they sent me a book. And I mean, I'm here for a book, even if I don't read it for 10 years. And I'm actually reading a book right now that I've probably had that long and still wondering why I'm just now reading it. But I was like, oh, a book. And that was that. That was that. And then I put it down. I think I put it on the bookshelf and that was that. And I thought, oh, cover's really nice. This is a nice book. Had not heard of Taylor Jenkins Reid. I literally could have been at the forefront of the Taylor Jenkins Reid, fandom had I started earlier. But I loved Daisy Jones and the Six, and I loved the last one I just read. What was it? One True Loves. One True Loves. It's right up there on my bookshelf. One True Loves. I read that and I liked both of those. So I'm pretty much here for anything that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes, even though, I haven't read much of her stuff. I like her writing style. Anyway, why didn't I read this? Why didn't I read this? Well, I wasn't reading at the time. And so I put it away. Then I started reading and I started discovering her books and I read Daisy Jones and the Six and I was like, oh man, I really want to read that Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo book, which at that point I had moved and it must have been in storage. In fact, it was in storage, so I could not find it. And I was like, but I have that book. I have that book. And so then it became an obsession because it's like, well, no, now I have to go buy it because I don't have it. But I knew that I had it in storage. And I was like, well, I'll just buy the paperback because I know that I have the hard copy and I'll go ahead and read the paperback, but donate it and keep the hard copy. That was the plan. So I bought the book. But when I bought the book, I bought other books too. And I started reading those books. And all of a sudden I wasn't obsessed anymore. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I think I started reading the first couple of chapters. I can't tell you why I put it down. The first couple of chapters were very interesting. I'm very interested in the book. I like the writing. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I, for the life of me, can't tell you why I put this book down. I just did. I read the first 2 chapters and put it down and started reading something else. No rhyme, no reason. The first 2 chapters were fine. The writing was fine. Everything was fine. It was Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was already familiar with her. Everybody, not everybody, there are some people who hated it, but the majority of the people that I have seen talk about this book love it. They say that it will make you cry, all of those things, that you will love this book. I don't know why I put it down, but I know that I want to pick it back up. And the last book, Maggie O'Farrell's I Am. I kind of feel like there's no way to really end on a positive note in this video because I am talking about DNFing books, but they are books that I do want to read. They're not books that I hated, except for that one. But I still kind of ended up on a sour note in a way because this book right here, it's a series of short stories and they're very interesting. It's so good. But I think by the third short story, it's about Maggie O'Farrell. It's a memoir, but it's her 17 brushes with death. And you guys, I could have read this book when I was 19. I could have read this book when I was 32 and I would have flown through the book. I probably would have read it in a day. It has given me so much anxiety. I don't know. I'm not even that anxious a person. I don't fly well. But other than that, I'm not that anxious a person. This book has given me so much anxiety that I had to put it down. I literally put it down because I couldn't read another account of how she almost died. because it had me like looking around. Oh my God, like, should I go to the store? Should I get in my car and drive? The stories in here, it's like I'm waiting for Richard Stack to come and be like, unsolved mysteries. Like, it's crazy. And I'm like, this happened to you and you still walking around? It's good though. Like, the stories are good. If you like true crime, if you like anything that's in the genre of like mystery or horror, you might like this. It might not bother you. Not that it's that. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's like, this is her memoir. And unless she's embellishing, she trying to lie to kick it. I don't know. And if she is, she's a good fiction writer, even though she does write fiction. But if this really happened to her, like if this stuff really happened to her, I'm scared, y'all. Like, this is some scary stuff. And not even scary in the way gory or, oh my God, dun, dun, dun. But like psychologically, it kind of messes with you, or at least it did me. But I do still want to read it again. What does that say about me? The San Francisco Chronicle says it's heartbreaking, life-affirming, beautiful. Taken together, these vignettes make up a sharply intimate portrait of what it is to be a person. A person who has 9 lives. Eventually, I will finish this, though. I think I'm at least going to attempt to finish it. And even if I do permanently DNF it, I'm always going to want to read it. It's not, there's nothing wrong with the book. It's not you, it's me. It just is. I'm sorry. But I'm going to attempt to read this again. All right, you guys, I am in my squat because I said that I would do it and I really do need to. It's just good for the body, good for the hips, opening up the hips and all of that. That's it for this video. So tell me, do you have any books that you have DNF'd, but you really do want to read again? You don't plan on getting rid of them. You don't plan on, donating them anywhere or giving them to anybody. You really do want to read them, but for whatever reason, you haven't had a chance to finish them. I would love to hear if you have any of those books in your, on your shelves or in your possession. And go ahead and tell me too, if you have a book that you would want to drop kick into the ocean, because I might want to avoid that book as well. All right, that's it for the video. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care and always be reading.